Sorry, guys. I don't know. I think my connection just went, and now I'm just trying to fix my camera. So I'm hoping that this time it stays and we do not get disconnected. Today we're going to be talking about boundaries with Josh. This is the third time I'm doing that introduction, and I'm hoping that we do not. Uh, it just stays the same. Hey,
Hey,
how are you there?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hopefully, I just changed the internet, so I hope this one just works fine.
All right.
How are you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm excited to have this chat with you.
Yes. So, Josh, just please, I'm sorry. Could you just do a little bit of self introduction again for the
Yeah,
audience?
sure. So I live in the United States in Ohio. My wife and I have been married 25 years. We pastor a church called More Life. We have four kids, two boys, two girls, 35 and a half months between the oldest and the youngest. So um, right now the ages are 22, 22, 21, and 19. And so we have one married, and they're expecting their first child. So my wife and I are going to be grandparents. We're excited about that.
Yay,
And
congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, so it's exciting. So that's a little bit about like my personal background, who we are.
Right.
Um,
So, Josh, we're going to be talking about boundaries, and you're the expert here. But before we dive in with the questions, a little about your personal journey with. Did you struggle before with boundaries, or you've always had them set? So, a little bit about that first.
yeah, always struggled. Very much have been a people pleaser a lot of my life. I grew up in on my mother's side, an Italian family. No boundaries in our family. I don't know if that's attributed to the Italian culture or just who we were as people, but no boundaries there. So saying no was very uncomfortable, very difficult. Feeling like you want to be agreeable, but when you disagree, what do you do? So it was definitely one of the more difficult things for me. And I hope that through some of the questions you've asked, that whoever captures this either live or later, um, really there's one word, and I hope people take away, and that is freedom.
Mm.
Boundaries equal freedom. And that is um, a part of my journey to learning and coming to the awareness that I was living in unfreedom, and
Mm.
stepping out of that has been so healthy for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now that we've dived into the conversation on boundaries, what is your personal definition of boundaries? I think that you're saying that boundaries basically means freedom, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the result of a boundary rather than a definition for it. I think that once you have them in place, that's what you experience. To me, a boundary is very much, if you think about a property line, ownership of property, you have
Yeah.
stakes. A boundary is a limit. In my definition, it's a limit or a space between you and another person. It's a
Mm.
clear designation of where you begin and where the other person ends, right?
Mm.
And so boundaries differentiate me from you. It's a
Right.
distinguishing factor, and they are also they're also a chosen set of values or behaviors that I will and will not accept in my life. And
Right.
that's important. That's integral in this conversation.
Yes, yes. So could we say that boundaries is a way of teaching others how they need to respect us?
Yeah, I think that also is an outcome. I think it is a set of guidelines for how we choose to interact with other human beings
Mm.
because we set them. And
Below.
yeah, I might be jumping a little bit ahead, but here's an example of a boundary. Okay,
Okay.
is let's say I'm raising my voice in a tone which you don't appreciate. Okay, and you say, Josh, stop doing that. Well, you can't make me stop doing that. But what you
Right.
can do is say, and this is a boundary, Josh, if you keep speaking to me in that tone of voice, I'm going to leave the room.
Mm.
That's a boundary, right? And whether
Right.
or not the person ends up respecting you is, to me, not the main point. But a
Because
boundary,
that's our control, right?
yeah, yeah. The boundary is about me respecting me,
Yes.
not you respecting.
Right. Absolutely. That makes sense because we one of the things that I think we really need to understand, and you've put it so perfectly, is that boundary is not about dictating the other person. Boundary is about really grounding and knowing your self-worth and saying, okay, I'm going to tell them not what to do, but uh, convey the message that this is not welcome here,
Yes.
and I choose to walk away because this is it, that is in my control and that is my choice. So that kind of also shows that we're not dictating the other person, but we're saying if that's up to you, but I'm walking away from it.
Yeah. And it's not a small point to reiterate that it's a clear place where I begin and you end.
Hmm.
That seems self-evident, but honestly, lots of times we trip over that really, really important factor because lots of times in relationships, our lives just merge together and there's no separation between me and you. So then
Yeah.
I have no identity apart from me and you, whether it's a
Hmm.
marriage or a child or a parent or whatever. There needs to be a distinction between me and you. And that
Hmm.
is what a boundary does, is it creates a clear expectation and clear responsibilities,
Hmm.
right?
Wow.
And
That's
via,
beautiful. Hmm.
say it again.
Yeah, I mean, you said it so perfectly because I think while you said that, I wanted to ask you something within that
Yeah,
thing is that one of the things I think we've lacked to learn over a period of generations is that when we merge into different roles or different relationships, like a father, a mother, a wife, I think we kind of lose our sense of being and we start to play the role instead of really holding to our identity. I think that's where we've kind of disconnected and that's where we fall off. Is that
I,
correct?
I agree with that 100%, that, you know, setting a healthy boundary is integral into
Mm,
establishing your identity. And it's absolutely vital for our mental health and our well-being, because
yes.
so often in relationships, and I'll probably stay there, especially parent-child, spouse relationships.
Yes.
So, for example, my wife and I, we're about to have all of our kids out of our home.
Okay.
So they're moving out, and we call this in our culture empty nest. I don't know if that's the same language, but
Okay.
like birds fly out of the nest, so we call it
Right,
empty,
right.
right?
Okay.
So now Angie and I are having to find our identity around something other than parents. So,
Wow.
so then we have to understand this subject, because then if our identity is I'm Josh dad, well, what happens when my children become adults and don't need that level of supervision? What's going to end up happening is I'm going to cross boundaries because our roles are
Yeah.
very different, very different.
Mm. And then I think this is really interesting because I've heard this a lot that parents complain that now that my kids are moving out, I'm having anxiety and I'm having depression because now that role is going to go, it's going to fade. Who am I without that role? So it's so important to really always stay connected with your true self and know that having your individuality and having that interdependency of knowing who you are is so essential for all of us.
Absolutely, for
Yes.
sure. You asked me about different kinds of boundaries, and I think this would be a
Yes.
place to insert that response. So
Yes.
I know of at least five,
Okay.
and those five are: first, physical;
Mm.
This is just the way I've ordered them. It doesn't have to be in this order in terms of priority or importance. Physical, emotional, relational, your time and energy, and spiritual.
Mm.
So physical boundary is your personal space, personal
Okay.
time, right?
Okay.
So you might come from a background where hugging or greeting one another with a kiss is common, right?
Mm.
I did in my background. The Italian family, we greet each other on each side of the face with a kiss. There's
Yes.
West, it's just there. That there comes Aunt so and
Uh,
so with the kiss, right? It's like, but but that really could be a violation of a personal boundary, a physical personal boundary, right?
mm.
Um,
Mm.
I've noticed in my world that I'm apt to hug, but you have to watch about that because there are people who've experienced physical abuse. They don't
Mm.
want to be touched.
Yes.
So your expression of greeting, kindness could actually have the opposite impact, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
physical boundary, emotional boundary, which is this is a tough one for a lot of people, but it's important to say who is and who is not allowed to have access to my feelings.
Mm. Wow. Mm.
Everyone has not earned the right to all of your feelings.
True.
That has to be earned. So that's a boundary that you set up, right? They protect you, your thoughts, your feelings. Um, Especially in an example of where maybe you've had this happen. Maybe someone who's watching now or later will have experienced this, where you tell someone how you feel, they invalidate your feelings.
Oh. Mm.
Well, then something has to happen because that's going to lead to unhealthy relationship. Um,
Mm.
Relational, or what do I expect of you? What do you expect of me? What do I need from you? What do I want from you? And then the communication of that trust
Mm.
matters. Time, energy, I put together. Um, I think time boundaries are the number one boundary that we allow others to violate the most.
Mm.
Time is the most limited and valuable asset that we possess as humans. When you give your time, that's an incredible gift. We each have 168 hours a week. And this was a tough one for me. I get to determine how I use those hours, minutes, and seconds. Nobody else. I'm ridiculously in charge of my time and energy. The fifth one is spiritual boundaries, and um, that that is a matter of. I can give you an example of this. I was in an Uber recently.
Mm.
Um, I always love to have conversations with our Uber drivers. I don't know how widespread Uber is, but in the United States, you have so many different options of people who are going to pick you. I mean, it's just
Yes.
so
Same
diverse.
here.
It's
Yeah.
so And so a young man who is a Muslim was
Okay.
was my driver, and it kind of sounds like the setup of a joke. A Christian and a Muslim are in an Uber together. You know what I mean? It sounds like the beginning of that. So, but we're just talking, right? And we begin to speak about each of our faiths and how different it is. And we had a very healthy conversation, right? And I think that that's important that we learn, listen with people who are different from us, and establish that line of communication, right? So that's just kind
Yes.
of an example of spiritual boundaries.
Yes, yes, yes. When you were talking about the cultural thing where we're even for me when we greet in our culture we kiss on one side of the cheek and then on the other side. So it's I just wanted to share that when I moved to USA and I was there and then I'm meeting all diverse people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and then I would just go and try to hug them and kiss them, and then women would just hold back, and I would think in my head, what's wrong with them? Why are they being weird?
Mhm.
I'm just meeting them. And then over a period of time, I learned, like you said, Some people don't like it. Some people don't like the physical thing. I don't need to take it personal. It's a learning experience. So it was really, really interesting because I would always take it personal and I get annoyed and frustrated and then whine and complain. Like, what's wrong with them? I don't want to meet them. They're so weird. So over a period of time, I learned a lot of things. And then same with faith. Me being a Muslim, I would, we were living in the apartment. We had the plumber come in, or the electrician come in, or something is not working in the apartment. You call the people to send the guy in, and they'll come and they walk in, and then I say, "Oh, sir, would you like a coffee? Can I make you a coffee? Would you like a croissant?" And they always say no. So this one guy who was always doing the rounds, so he'd been in my apartment a couple of times. So it's like probably the 100th time he's coming in. And that day he says, "Ma'am, today, if you don't mind, I'm really hungry, I have a long day. Can I have that croissant today?" And I said, "Sure, please, let me make you coffee. You're working all day." And he's like, I don't know how many years he's been working. He said, "I go to so many houses and for so many years of work, nobody asks me anything. You're the nicest person I've met." And I was like, "Really? This is what my religion demands me." And he said, "Okay, which religion is this?" And I said, "I'm a Muslim. It's Islam." And he just stood there like he just paused and he's like, and I was like, "You want to talk more? Let me get you some coffee," and left us the conversation. And it
Yeah,
was really interesting because then you have that space where that person is ready to listen without judging you, without saying anything. And we became really good friends. So it's really about sometimes not being defensive
yeah,
and not having an opinion or just listening to the other person. And when you do that, you learn so much.
a lot, a lot. And I think it's beautiful that you and I can have a conversation like this
Yeah.
with very different backgrounds, clear part, different part of the globe, different part of the
Yes.
planet, and
Yeah.
and learn each other and grow and just have an interesting conversation.
Yes, yes, yes. So, Josh, I know that we spoke about culture, and I'd really to bring it in. You coming from a cultural background, which seems quite similar to mine. We are a culture where there is no boundary. There is no space. Everybody has been and everybody's knows. It's considered rude and disrespectful if you're not in anybody's business. What's
Yeah.
wrong with you? Let's go, we're having a family meeting. So now we come from such kind of culture, such kind of background. How do we learn to set boundaries? Boundaries is like not a thing.
Yeah. So yeah, same. And one of the things that I would say is starting by communication was
Hmm.
important for me. And I have like five guidelines for what I call tricky conversations. And like I don't know if your culture holds grudges or not.
Okay.
Italians hold grudges.
Oh, big time here too.
My my sister my sister went to this party and didn't eat one of the cookies that one of the family members had prepared, and they haven't spoken since because she didn't eat a cookie. Like serious grudge holding. So
Yes.
to say boundaries when there are none is tricky. It's a tricky conversation. So I would say this is how I've learned to do it. Number one, I've tried to stick to the facts and not let too much emotion get in. I try to
Mm.
measure my words. Second, I try to measure and choose my words very carefully and watch about body language at the same time. So Italians are expressive in our culture. There's some of this, like there's lots of, and these gestures can mean certain
Yes,
things.
yes, yes, yes.
I have to watch my body language. Um,
Okay.
when someone, I have a phrase that I use, especially in these tricky conversations. When people become furious, I become curious.
Mm.
Like I want to know why, because if I'm
Mm.
going to really have this conversation, right? This
Right.
can't. This has to be about clarification, not about confrontation. Very
Mm.
different. To clarify the point, which will
Mm.
lead to the fourth one. Seek clarity more than anything else, and then last, look for ways that you can change yourself to bring
Mm.
people into that decision making along with you. That's
Mm.
how I would start to communicate. Find the facts, choose my words, don't
Mm,
be moved when they're emotional, find clarity, and then see if there's something you can change about the way you're doing things.
mm. Interesting, really insightful. So, Josh, when a person coming from especially our kind of background or any background who's not aware of boundaries, and now all of a sudden they realize and then now they want to set in place boundaries, what are the few things they need to know about how they're going to establish boundaries for themselves, how they're going to serve them?
So, first, I'm going to give some things that won't be very practical, but they're more about going through the process emotionally. So, number one, it's going to be awkward. It's not going to be easy. It's going to feel weird. It might be painful at first. For me, it felt selfish. So I had this
Yes.
self condemnation, guilt attached to saying no. What we're really talking about in boundaries a lot of times is learning to say no nicely, right?
Yes.
And when I
Yes.
realized that I could be humble and kind and empathetic, actually, I wasn't even trying to be those things. That's who I am. I am kind. I am empathetic, right? While still
Right.
setting healthy boundaries to protect my life, my family, my energy, and realize I didn't
Mm.
have to take bull crap from other people. My
Right.
life got better. So, like, the first thing I want someone to see is it's going to be painful and awkward. But back to that one word, there's freedom on the other side of that choice. So it's work that's worth doing. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I would say that, and I would say you have to learn to love
Mm.
without trying to rescue.
Mm. Oh, that's a big one for uh empaths.
Yeah, huge. If you
Mm.
if you are a person with big emotions, big
Mm.
empathy, big
Mm.
compassion, big love, learning to love without rescuing is difficult.
Yes,
It's really difficult, and I would say you have to learn to do that, right?
yes, yes,
Um,
absolutely.
the I think I could probably dive into that a little bit. I put together a recipe for rescue. So
Okay,
if you want to be a rescuer, do these things. Okay?
okay,
So
okay.
just love and rescuing. If you want to be a rescuer, then do whatever is necessary to avoid conflict. That's a rescue.
Mm.
Um,
Gotcha.
provide assistance to individuals whenever they make poor choices. Just keep bailing them out. This is the big one. Rescuers feel responsible for other people's well being.
Oh,
Rescuers
yes.
make excuses for their unhealthy choices and behavior.
Mm.
Rescuers put other people's needs ahead of their own in an unhealthy way.
Mm.
Both of our faith, as different as they are, would still have an element of self sacrifice and putting other people's needs ahead of your own. But if it
Yes.
kills you in the process,
Mm.
if it takes away from you in the process, you limit your ability to help others in the future, right?
Mm.
These
Yes.
rescuers simply don't have established boundaries.
Mm.
They're people pleasing and they're thinking they're doing someone a favor, but they're violating a really important principle, which
Mm.
is they're learning to rescue, but they're not learning to love.
Mm. Wow, that's oh, that was really good. That was really good. I think that for me personally, when I was doing the healing process and when I was learning in my space about boundaries, it was really new to me. And one of the things that I learned in that process was that why are boundaries important, right? Like how are they going to serve me, especially coming from a culture like yours and mine? And it was really insightful because then the puzzles started to fit in why certain relationships took place if there were boundaries, if there was an understanding, that would have never happened. Why I went to a certain extent with relationships was the lack of understanding of having boundaries. Not just that, I learned something was that because I lacked boundaries, being a good person, being empathetic, I was toxic.
Mm.
Because I didn't have boundaries meant I was not seeing other people's having their boundaries in place, and I was overstepping them. So it all started to make sense, and then really to actualize that I'm a good person. How can I be toxic? I had to like swallow that hard pill and be like, no, I'm toxic. And it is because of a lot of things on the outside that influenced it, coming from a culture that doesn't talk about boundaries. I've learned to be toxic because of the cultural influence. And then I took it from there. Okay, this is how it is, kind of like validating what I went through, the relationships in my life, and then step by step doing the work. And then when I really understood what boundaries do, how they serve me, and especially my mental well-being. I mean, literally, I was a point at where the ENT said that I might be losing my hearing because
Wow.
of the stress I have had been taking. And he was really concerned, and he said, you need to work on your stress, because I was literally screaming and I couldn't hear people. And when they did the hearing test, everything came clear. But I was complaining, and he said, I think he said that you've been through some stress and trauma, and that's affecting your hearing, and you need to take therapy or something. Anyway, so then when I saw that, I had to like, one of the things I did wrong in, and that's why I want to share this, is that when I made up in my mind that boundaries are important and how they're going to help me, that's it. There was no communication with anyone. In my head, I thought that this is it. And now everybody was like, she's rude,
Mm.
she look at your age, or you think you're so smart, or you think you know everything. And then I went back in the rabbit hole and like, okay, this is not working. What am I doing wrong? And then I started to, okay, where am I lacking was that, did I clearly communicate with people that this is not the old me, this is the new me, and the new me demands to be treated in a certain way. This is how you're going to speak to me. You're not going to call me names. And I choose to walk away because that is in my control. You can choose to be however you want to be. And trust me, Josh, it was like I lost everybody in the beginning. But I stayed grounded because something told me in my heart that this is the right thing to do. And it took me a year. Everybody came around. People who loved me, people who understood me. Literally, I would say 90% of the people who don't have boundaries also understood and came around to understanding that she's a different person. And if we want to be in her space, this is how she wants to be met.
Yeah. The thing that I love about what you just said is that this was a matter of you taking a responsibility, accepting responsibility for your feelings and actions, and that they have to take responsibility for their feelings and actions. I can't
Yes,
do that for them. I can only
yes.
do that for me. And so much of the violation of boundaries is you see someone hurting, whether you caused it or not, whether you were a part of it or not, that you violate boundaries when you try to accept responsibility for how they feel or what they did.
Mm,
Um, there's a text in in in, in Proverbs. It says something very interesting. It says hot-tempered people must pay the penalty. If you rescue them once, you'll have to do it again and again.
mm,
And I think this is interesting because, and one of the things you asked, what does a person need to think, feel, or believe in order to stick to these boundaries, which I think is a brilliant question.
yeah.
It, it is simply understanding that there is a law in the universe. However you understand God, I have my way, you have yours. And that's beyond the scope of why we're here, to not create drama over that. But there is
Mm,
a law in the universe of sowing and reaping.
mm,
And
mm,
it simply says, whoever sows is the one who reaps.
Yeah.
Um, but there's an issue that will create toxicity in unhealthy relationships. If I am reaping pain from someone else's decisions, a boundary's being crossed.
Mm,
Actions have consequences. And if
mm,
someone in our life is sowing anger, selfishness, behavioral or verbal abuse, they are responsible for reaping what they've sown. I'm not. So
mm,
if they're speaking to me in a way, I don't have to reap that. That's theirs because
mm.
they've sown. Does that make sense? It, it,
Yes.
it's 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 a simple way of saying the people who sow are the ones who have to pay the consequences. And
Mm,
that's what I would love for people to capture as they're listening to this or watching this back, is that I'm not responsible for anyone else's actions but my own. And nor am I
mm,
responsible to reap the consequences of their actions. And
mm.
oftentimes empaths, people pleasers will take it and think it's ours, but watch, when you regularly rescue those individuals, you do become toxic. It's
Yes.
called it's called being an enabler. You
Mm,
let them get away
with it.
with
Yes.
because you're reaping the consequences of their actions, and
Mm,
that is something that we have to believe and understand in order to set these boundaries. That I don't have to reap anyone else's consequences but my own.
yes. It's like really like when you look at bad relationships, when you really truly commit yourself and you take ownership of yourself, you really see that you were enabling the person. They when they were abusing you, whether you were unaware, it's not about blame. It's about really understanding that it's how we are actually knowing or unknowingly, with good faith, letting the other person know that they have the right to treat us this way and it is okay. So we're basically training them that you can do this and it is totally okay, and that kind of sets the tone in the relationship and they keep on doing that. And one of the things that you said was, when I mean, I do this a lot. When I'm in a heated conversation, somebody snaps at me, somebody's aggressive, somebody's trying to emotionally abuse me, or somebody's angry, am I going to react? And if I do react, I always go back and really ask myself, why did I? Why did I let that happen? And there's always not just that person. It's something else. It's amazing. Oh, I was having a bad day today. I was frustrated or something else. And now this person, because this person was getting mad at me, I went back and did exactly what they were doing to me. And then there are times where I can say, okay, this is where my defense comes up. You can say whatever you want to. I know this is not about me. Something's going on there. So I'm just going to gracefully walk away and not not absorb that, and just go by my day with my own energy and my own spirit.
Yeah. What you said something that sparked a thought for me, that one of the most difficult things for me, and it still is to this day, is that the thought of disappointing someone.
Hmm.
I hate that idea.
Hmm.
But a boundary means I'm willing to risk disappointing you
Hmm.
by saying no or yes or whatever I say in order to prioritize what I'm needing to do with my time, effort, energy, and resources. And that's been a very difficult thing for me because I don't want to disappoint people. I really don't. Um,
Hmm.
but I had to get past that to know what's obvious, which is you can't please everyone, right? You're going to disappoint someone. And here's
Yeah.
what happened when I was trying to avoid disappointing other people. You know who ended up disappointed?
Hmm.
Me,
Yourself. Yeah.
because I was doing what they wanted in every instance.
And
And
emotionally drains you eventually.
it does. And I know this
Hmm.
could sound self-absorbed, selfish, spiritually self-centered. I don't mean any of that.
Hmm.
but what I do mean is that you're ridiculously in charge of you.
Mm,
And the sooner we come to that understanding, the better off we'll be in surrounding ourselves with safe people who respect the boundaries. This
mm,
tug of war with people who don't respect the boundaries is exhausting. It's just
mm,
exhausting
mm.
to put down a boundary and then have someone's, always crossing it. And that's what I had in a season of my life. And it really pushed me to the point where I'm like, no, I've got to learn more about this, grow in this area. And I feel like I still am growing and learning. I'm learning today.
Yes, we're learning every day. Josh, one of the examples, because I see a lot of people coming in, is I'm a single mom, right? And it's 24/7 with the kids. I had to tell myself it's okay to have a Mavish day where I'm not playing the role of just the mom. It was exhausting, and I felt like such a big heaviness in my chest initially, because I don't want to be around my kids. I want to go away for some time, a few hours or a whole day. I can't do this. They'll feel abandoned. They'll think a mom doesn't love them. So it was really understanding. And of course, my children are little. I had to do it like small, small steps. Okay, today what? Mom's gonna have her coffee alone. So like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You guys are not allowed unless there's an emergency to come to me. And I was like, I trained myself not to feel guilty because my son was very little. And then see that 15-minute or 10-minute gap for having my coffee alone gave me so much of super energy to come back and be more present, then be go do your thing, and all that. My energy and the way I was showing them shifted, and I say, this is a game changer. Okay, now we're going to do it at night. Okay, it's nighttime, you guys are in bed, but you see me, my phone on. It's my time. I don't care. Unless you're dying, you cannot talk to me, because this is my time. And it really helped, because now my daughter is almost 12, and she's doing it with her friends. I see a different her, and I'm like, yes, this is so good, because she was just doing what I was doing, and she lacked boundaries. Now she sees, okay, this is good for mommy, this might work for me. She's
Yeah.
doing it with friends, she's doing it with everybody, and the amazing thing is, she knows that if it's my grandparent, how she's going to talk, the tone and the way she is going to deliver her message, by letting them know she's not disrespecting them, but she's honoring herself as a kid. So I,
Yeah.
I feel that to be a big, big and huge success being a single mom. I know we struggle so much. We feel so like we're not good moms or good parents because we want me time, but I've personally experienced it, and I think it really just takes your relationship to a different yet very healthy level.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the point that I'm endeavoring to make, is that you are ridiculously in charge of you. Like it's your call. Now, what you just said, someone watching or listening back might be like, I don't understand that. But that doesn't matter, because you
Mm,
understand, right?
mm,
You understand what that means. And so you live out of that. And I guess in the time we have, the few minutes we have left,
yes.
in case someone might hear me only being on a negative side, which I don't intend to, but I could see how someone might interpret it that way. I think it's important to discuss, like, what is what is a safe person?
Mm,
Because when you have boundaries, that's who you're going to attract, are other people who respect those boundaries. Safe people create more safe people. Does that make sense?
yes,
So
yes.
So to me, the people that I want to attract are safe because they help me become the best version of me that I was created to be. That
Mm,
doesn't just say, "Attaboy, Josh, you did a good job," but they truly want me to be the best that I can be. They help me to become more connected with other safe people, right?
mm,
And third, they help me grow spiritually and personally. Um, Unsafe people don't do those things. They get threatened by you growing and developing. They're threatened by you connecting with other people. They're threatened when you grow and invest in your own spiritual and personal development. And that those type of people are the ones I'm trying to attract. Safe people, emotionally safe people, and repel emotionally toxic and unsafe people. When you're surrounded by toxic people, you just think toxic is healthy.
Yes. That becomes your normal.
Yeah, you're just like, and when you step out of that, you're like, whoa, this is
Yeah.
this feels like I don't
Yeah.
ever do that.
Want to go back. Yes, 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 yes. Just this is so beautifully said, and I guess I know we have to wrap up now. Is and we want to give an example is that you and I spoke in January, and I'm going to talk about me here. The old me, if you and I had talked and then we had to delay our podcast, we started in January, the old me would have been pissed, would have gone and blocked you, would have been, what does he think of himself, and made all these assumptions around you, right?
Yeah,
But when you learn to set boundaries, when you learn how toxicity can impact your well-being, it was like, you know what, he's a great person. When he's ready, and if he thinks I'm the right fit to do this podcast, he'll connect. And somehow we stayed connected, and here we are.
yeah,
So I think it's so important to really, and you said it right. People think that there are going to be people who are going to think we're boundaries are selfish. I think you need to know your balance. You need to know that tilting towards one of the sides, you can become an arrogant dash dash dash, or you can become a loving, caring person
yeah,
having boundaries. I think one of the things is, if you and I, you set a boundary, I feel you're being selfish. Okay, Josh, this is your boundary. I'm feeling selfish. Let's have a conversation. And then really communicating why a person's boundary is bothering you, instead of projecting or manipulating or being toxic. Just say that this boundary of yours makes me uncomfortable. Have that open conversation, and maybe you can come to a different level of communication with a little bit of change in that boundary. So I think instead of assuming more in our heads because of toxicity, I think it's more, I know this is going to be uncomfortable, but I'm just going to clearly tell Josh that, okay, this boundary is not going to work for me. I want to talk to you. Let's see what you have to say about it.
yeah. Communication, and I would come back to the word freedom. That
Yes.
when those boundaries are in place, and even if someone does persist and continue to give us a no, um, the freedom of the boundary reminds you this isn't about me, so I don't need to be insecure and feel inferior about it because they don't have all the details, right?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
every no, and um, I think that the word freedom, we've said a couple times, I've said several times, because that's been the result in my life, is
Yeah.
that it's been freeing. Some people do hear this and they hear, oh, you're giving people permission to cut off relationships and do this or
Mm.
that. No, I'm giving people permission to live in the freedom that they were designed by their creator to have. And
Yeah.
this important thing that we all take responsibility for ourselves, and not let someone else impose things on us and then end up bitter and resentful because we never spoke up and we never said what we wanted to have happen, which I've seen
Yeah.
that all too often. And
Yeah.
you know 4 days before my 36th birthday, I had a heart attack.
Mm.
So as I was recovering from that, I realized this was all a part of the process of realizing that um, I had a lack of boundaries. It created a tremendous amount of stress. And
Mm.
just like you talked about the hearing impairment,
Mm.
this stress was literally going to end up killing me if I didn't take control of it. And
Yeah.
so that boundaries are literal lifesavers.
Yeah.
It'll literally save your life.
Yes, yes.
I hope people find that freedom, and hope that they found one or two things out of what we discussed today that would put them on a path of potential and on a path of freedom.
Yes, thank you so much, Josh. I know we could go on and talk about boundaries. There's so many things. I know we didn't even do all of the questions, but I think it was really meaningful, a conversation. Josh, anything you're doing right now? Are you doing any particular workshops? How people over here listening can connect with you at a one-on-one level?
Yeah, sure. The best way to probably connect with me is Instagram. I'm where we are now. Our conversation started with I don't know, a comment or a
Yes,
DM, something, I don't know. And I'm pretty active. I'll respond, you know.
yes,
I sometimes think maybe people would see a number of followers and not reach out, but it is social media, so I like the social aspect of it. And when time permits, I do interact. I try to interact with as many people as I can. So social media is great for that for me. Um, I do have a book that is in the hands of an editor currently. It's my first book.
yay.
Thank you. It's called it's not on this subject. It's
Okay,
called The Heavens Seem Closed, and it's about navigating the dry seasons of life. And it really
okay.
my journey of losing my mom, and she died young, and how I processed that. And so I'll be kind of sharing some thoughts on that through Instagram over the next weeks, as COVID has made things slow. So I'm waiting till I have the physical copy to really say anything
Uh,
official, like
we
dates.
will do another podcast once your book is out, and we will
Sure.
talk because I think losing your mom and then having that thing that you're a man and you're not supposed to show your emotions and get it together is going to be a whole different level of conversation.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
So,
Great, great, great. Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you
yeah,
so much, everybody, for coming in, listening to us. You know where to connect with Josh. I will definitely tag him. And I'm sending you so much love, Josh. Take such
thank
good care of yourself and your
you.
family.
Thank you.
Bye.